Hi, friends. It's Deanna Willison with Our Blooming Catholic Life, and today we have our second look at Psalm 50. That's the fourth penitential psalm, known as Miserere, and we were looking our second look at verses 10 through 12. To my hearing thou shalt give joy and gladness, and the bones that have been humbled shall rejoice. Turn away thy face from my sins, and blot out all my iniquities. Create a clean heart in me, O God, and renew a right spirit within my bowels. Here we hear David pleading. He's pleading with God, but complete trust that God is not only going to clean him and he's going to blot out his iniquities, he's going to forgive everything, but he's also going to bring David great joy. Is that a little bit of presumption there? Is it trust or is it presumption? Let's look up in the Modern Catholic Dictionary. What does that presumption mean? Trust versus presumption. Okay. There's some very big words. Predetermination. Premonstration. I don't even know what that word is. Actually managed to lose the word I was looking for. Presumption. There it is. It's on page 437. Presumption. The desire to undertake or the actual undertaking of what is above one's capacity. It is a result of pride, which makes one person overestimate his ability and blinds him to his deficiencies. It also leads one to expect graces from God without doing anything to obtain them, and even when acting the opposite, as when sinning, the person presumes that forgiveness is assured. I think there we have it. Just assuming, well, he's going to forgive me anything. Let's see if we can contrast that with trust. Okay. Trust is reliance on someone. So presumption was overestimating. Trust is reliance on someone. One has confidence in people as persons, trusts them to be faithful to their commitments, and hopes to obtain from them what they promise. Applied to God, trust is a form of hope, but with a special nuance that God will not deny his grace to one who does what he can. This means that provided a person cooperates with divine grace according to his or her ability, that person will merit further grace from God. So they both require you to work with the graces. You can call on all the graces you want, but trust is when you're willing to work with the grace, and presumption is when you don't do your part. You just assume God's going to take care of it all and you don't have to change or do anything. Trust is when you do your part. That's a pretty good thing to ponder. I may just leave that with you there. I think that is beautiful, and I think that is a huge difference. And we all know that we can presume upon a person's charity too. Now, we know that if we do our part, we do the best we can, we hope for that charity in return, right? That somebody will love us and do the best they can in return. In response to God, we do what we can to respond to the grace that he's given us, to the good things he's given in our life. And we turn to him in gratitude, hoping that he's going to somehow keep giving us graces and we're going to use them somehow. And we're going to use them. How do you use grace? That is something I guess we have to pray about. How do you use grace? Let's look it up. This here has all the different kinds of grace. I'm looking at efficacious grace, actual grace to which free consent is given by the will, so that, this is the exact thing. Oh, God is so good, friends. Efficacious grace is the actual grace to which free consent is given by the will, so that the grace produces its divinely intended effect. In the controversy between the Dominicans and the Jesuits in the late 1500s, there was no agreement on what precisely causes an actual grace to become efficacious. I can't quite read. In Benasian theory, the efficacy of such grace depends on the character of the grace itself. In the Molinist theory, it depends on the fact that it is given under circumstances that God foresees to be congruous with the dispositions of the person receiving the grace. In every Catholic theory, however, it is agreed that efficacious grace does not necessitate the will or destroy human freedom. Interesting. You give free consent is given by your will. So grace doesn't take over. It doesn't force you to do something you don't want to do. You still get the choice. That's important when we talk about Mary and the Annunciation that she says, "Behold the handmaid of the Lord, be it done to me according to thy word." Yes, she gives her fiat. Yes, she is not forced to cooperate with the grace, but she chooses to. And then that grace becomes efficacious. It does what God had wanted it to do, because we talked about that. Our heart is where our freedom meets God's freedom. And what happens? Great things happen. Great things happen in our heart, right? Did you ever do that as a kid? Make a heart like that? I have no idea. Maybe that was just me. But it's like the left and right sides of your heart coming together and working together perfectly. And you have to give free will to that. God sends the grace, but if you don't reach out and grab it, it's like a person you're drowning and the person reaches their hand. You can swim the other way, or you can reach out and take that hand. That's a thing, right? We all knew that old joke where there's a terrible, terrible flood and a man's on the roof of his house. And God sends a person in a boat. The person says, no, God's going to save me. I don't need to get in your boat, but thank you. And the boat goes on its way. And God sends a helicopter. The person says, no, God's going to save me. I don't need you. Go on. I'm good. And then the person passes away. And he's up there standing, rattling at the gates. God, why didn't you save me? And he's like, I sent you the man in the boat and the helicopter, and you said no. Okay, that would be that sin of presumption versus the trust working with God, right? Working with God, doing our part. So a lot to think about there. How do we respond to the graces we are given? That's something to think about for today. Friends, may God bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and to be gracious to you. And may you respond to that grace. Amen.